Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today is the 25th of January 2021. Alright everyone, we had a bit of price movement over the weekend and from Friday as well. So we went back to all-time highs from about 1200 the last time I came at you guys with the refuel. We can see on the chart here we kind of went to 1480-ish, I think, and then came back down a bit and are now hovering around 1415 at time of recording, which obviously is a great price to be at, right? Anything over 1400 feels amazing. There's only been a few days in Ethereum's history where it's been over 1400, so yeah, it feels really great. But I think the bigger news in terms of price movement was the ETH BTC ratio. Now, a lot of people talk about this, a lot of people watch this for various reasons. So the level that people were looking for was a break of the 0.04 level here. And the reason they were looking at this, and I can kind of show you here. So if we go to the 1 week chart here and I kind of scroll it down like that, you can see that we have been kind of like ranging in the 0.04 to 0.016 level for 2.5 years. 2.5 years of ranging here. And we finally broke out of that over the weekend, which is obviously a huge deal, right? For the traders among you, you would know why this is such a big deal. But the TLDR is basically you sit in a price range for 2.5 years and you fail to break out of it, 1, 2, 3 times in that period, right? While having all these kind of like downtrends here. It's a huge deal. And it's also a huge deal not just for ETH, but for all the other kind of tokens out there. Because when ETH is going up a lot, and when ETH is going up against BTC, the other kind of tokens in the market tend to go up as well. So, people are really excited because people call this alt season, right? And things like that. Even though I don't think ETH is an alt, but it's just like a term that people use or whatever. But yeah, so that was really great to see. And I think in general, Ethereum deserves to be worth, much more than it is versus Bitcoin right now, or that it has been in the past. I think Ethereum is delivering so much value to the crypto ecosystem, and ETH is just such an amazing asset for various reasons that it's criminal that it has been worth, just a few weeks ago, it was worth, 0.022, which is like, it's incredibly low compared to what Bitcoin's worth in terms of market cap, and it just doesn't make sense. So this was a level people were looking for, and now that it's broken, everyone's very excited. We'll see how fast we trend up from here. People are already calling for the flippening, which is when ETH's market cap flips Bitcoin's. And as bullish as I am, and I do believe in it, I just don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know if it, would happen and then ETH would fall under in market cap as opposed to Bitcoin. Because you can imagine something like that being like a huge signal for people to sell, right? If ETH's market cap goes over Bitcoin's market cap, people are going to be like, well, they kind of play a game of chicken. They're going to think to themselves, well, is everyone else going to sell this kind of event? If they are, I better sell. And then you kind of have this self-fulfilling prophecy. But that's still far away. I think the flippening line is we almost did it in 2017, but I think it's like 0.017, 0.17, probably above that actually. But we got close in 2017. So we'll see what happens there, but I'll digress here for now on the price action, but I just thought it was very important because obviously, I'll explain in a bit why I think it's very important. Actually, I have a tweet lined up for it. I won't explain it now, but I did want to show that this interesting tweet from Into the Block. They posted that ETH is leaving exchanges at a rapid pace right now, and usually that means, and as you might have suspected, that ETH is kind of getting off the market and going to people's cold storage, or maybe it's going to DeFi as well. There's various uses with ETH, but you can see here that is one of the biggest withdrawals in a long time. In the short period of time, was almost 1 million ETH was removed in one day from exchanges, so that was pretty bullish as well. You can see CoinGecko here is also talking about the DeFi total market cap. So in 2020 it was only 2 billion. Now in 2021 it's at 43 billion. And I've spoken about this before, but CoinGecko uses... how am I not following CoinGecko? That's weird. They use Chainlink in there. They have Chainlink in their DeFi category, which I don't think is DeFi. Not that I don't like Chainlink. It's a middleware protocol. I don't think it should be classified as DeFi. So that's worth like $6 or $7 billion. So you can discount that again. So you can just say that DeFi market cap's like 35 billion, right? Which is still quite small, I think, compared to the kind of like the kind of potential that we think DeFi has here. But it's funny to see how fast it's already grown from just 2 billion in 2020 and in at the start of 2020, I think, and then 2021 it's now much higher. It's like almost 20x higher. So that's really bullish there. And this was also bullish. This came from Coinbase. So I posted to Twitter kind of a screen grab of Coinbase calling Ethereum a potential store of value asset, which I thought was pretty insane. For those who were around in 2018 and 2019 during the bear market, if you called ETH a store of value asset, you would have been laughed at by pretty much everyone, even people within Ethereum. Now, you're laughed at if you don't say that, right? If you don't think ETH is going to be a store of value. So it's pretty insane, like how fast kind of sentiment changes. And for this to be posted on Coinbase's blog here is huge, because this is going to be read by people that aren't in the crypto ecosystem, right? And don't know how to value these things. They don't know, what's a store of value, what isn't, and all this sort of stuff. And Coinbase is saying, ETH is. And then they have this chart that shows that ETH outperformed Bitcoin in 2020, which I thought was really cool as well. Anyway, the reason I'm talking about price so much, and the reason why I do talk about it a lot, is because I think, well, one, it's extremely important, but in general, and I obviously tweet about prices a lot too, but I think, and I tweeted this out today, and I'll read the whole tweet. So, open quote, "This may be hard to believe, but the main reason I get so giddy about ETH going up in price is not the profits. It's the fact that so many dedicated Ethereum community members spent 3 long years building during a brutal bear market, and now their work is being rewarded," end quote. So if you were around in 2018, 19, and even 20, you would have seen, it was a very small community. There were people, heads down building. No matter what the market was doing, they were building. They were building the infrastructure that we use today. All of DeFi has been built during the bear market, right? It started basically at the end of 2017 with Maker, and then we built it out through the bear market. And those people had to deal with, obviously the sentiment being really bad because ETH's price was falling from a high of $1,400 to $80 within a year, right? That happened within 2018, which was just insane, right? No one expected it to fall to $80 from $1,400, but no one expected it to go to $1,400 either. So, it works both ways. But in general, and that led to people thinking that Ethereum was a failed project. It was going to die, right? Nothing was ever going to happen on it. Ethereum had just lost its kind of major use case in ICOs during 2018, because ICOs kind of fell out of favor. People stopped doing them, obviously, because the market wasn't hot. There was kind of no, I guess, customers for ICOs, if you want to call them that. And then Ethereum was kind of like in this no man's land because there wasn't DeFi. There were like bits and pieces, I guess, but nothing to talk about really. And that's why ETH was falling so much, because people were like, why am I holding this, right? Why is ETH valuable? All this sort of stuff. So I think 2018 was very brutal, and then 2019 was also very brutal because the ETH price didn't really do anything in 2019. It started the year at like 130 or something, finished the year maybe a bit higher than that. Whereas Bitcoin actually, finished up on the year. So there was this kind of thing where, a lot of people turned into Bitcoin maximalists for some reason, just because of the price action. So that was another thing. So all throughout 2018 and 2019, you had, these builders, these people in the ecosystem, these diehard believers had to deal with so much negative sentiment, so much toxicity, people telling you that your project's going to die, Ethereum's dead, and you didn't know what the future was going to look like, obviously, right? You didn't know that DeFi was going to be as big as it is. You didn't know that ETH was going to go back up. I mean, you believed it, right? But you didn't know. And that's always the toughest thing, is that you can believe something, you can believe it with all your heart and all your mind, but you don't know for sure because no one can tell the future. Like, myself and a lot of other people that I'm close with in the Ethereum community, we all believed that ETH would go back to all-time high. We believed that Ethereum would be this platform, for things like DeFi and kind of, Web3 and all this sort of stuff. We definitely did believe it. But even, as the price was going up in 2020, as it reached, I think it broke out of I think the price it got to in 2019 during that random pump in the middle of 2019 was like $380. And that's the price that it kind of broke out of in 2020. And when that happened, right, we were all in disbelief. We were like, is this really happening, right? After all this time, every single day, being in the community, watching the prize, spending time with building and trying to kind of like keep the community together and fighting off all the toxicity, you get to a point where what you believed would happen happens, and then you're literally in disbelief. And I suffered from this for a few months actually, and I've only just now recently come to terms with the fact that this is actually real. This isn't a joke, right? And it sounds funny that I'm saying this, but if you've been around for the same amount of time that I have through the original bull market in 2017 and then the bear market, you would know kind of like what this feels like. And it's just surreal. It really, really is surreal. And it just, I mean, I won't go on too much about it, but I just think that, if you're newer to the ecosystem, you obviously don't have the context here, and probably be glad that you didn't have to live through that bear market, because it was very, very brutal and very toxic. There were literally Bitcoin maximalists every single day, and these were popular points for them to make as well. They were basically making all these points that made sense at the time, I guess you could say, to the uneducated kind of person that was in the ecosystem, and it was really disheartening, because it price is normally looked at as a kind of like indicator for success for a project. So if the price isn't going up, it means your project has failed, which is stupid for a number of reasons, right? But it is what it is. But the fact that we were delivering all these things and they were so valuable to people, the fact that we had Uniswap that was just amazing and people didn't see how amazing it was until the ETH price started moving up again. Yeah, it was frustrating. So to be at this point, to be at the point where, ETH is at all-time highs against USD, we broke out of a 2.5-year range against Bitcoin, which was probably the more painful thing, because Bitcoiners would always point to that and be like, haha, it's, you should have just held Bitcoin instead of ETH, blah, blah, blah. So the fact that we've done this and we're finally there in 2021 now, in January of 2021, we're finally starting a bull market. People finally see the value in DeFi, and it's no longer a question of if DeFi is going to succeed. It's how long is it going to take for DeFi to take over the traditional finance system. So it's just, it's night and day difference. I'm very happy about it, of course, but you sometimes think back and you're like, you think back to how you felt at the time, like during the bear market, and you think, wow, I never want to go back there. And you know what? The worst thing is that I know there's going to be another bear market eventually. That is crypto. If there isn't another bear market, I'll be extremely surprised, because that has been the trend up to this point. So it's coming, but you want to enjoy the bull market. So you try to ignore that fact. But it's hard to ignore, right? Because you don't know when it's going to come. You just know it is going to come around. And then you might have to deal with all that toxicity again. But I think it's going to be a lot easier to deal with this time, because just because the prices come down doesn't mean the app stopped working. All of DeFi was still going to work. I actually think a lot of people are going to stay within the DeFi ecosystem if they cash out, because they'll just go to stablecoins, right? Why not just go to stablecoins and earn some yield? Yes, the yields are probably going to be lower, but why even go to fiat? You go to fiat for taxes and some bills maybe, but why keep your money in a bank account where it's earning basically nothing, and it's also in a bank account, right? You're in this stuff to go bankless. So I actually think a lot of capital is going to stay within the system, which should dampen the bear market and maybe even shorten it. Maybe not. It depends how crazy this bull market gets. And I'm not saying that things can't still fall like 90% plus in value. They definitely can. BTC and ETH, maybe not that much, but the DeFi tokens, depending how crazy they get, some of them are going to be falling 90% plus from their highs. Like that's just crypto for you. They did that in after DeFi summer. So I know I've talked a lot about I guess price here, but I think it's something that we should just step back, take a look at, and take a look at how far we've come. Respect how far we've come, how far we still have to go, respect the builders within the ecosystem, and help where you can. There's so much to do, right? I've mentioned this before, but if you're working full-time outside of the ecosystem and you're happy with that, but you still want to be involved with crypto, just do something on the side. There's so much you can do. But if you want to join crypto, now's the best time to do it. There is so much hiring going on right now because of the fact that the ecosystem is growing so much. So If you're looking for a job in crypto, there's actually a site that I recommend, or you can follow them on Twitter, Crypto Jobs or Cryptocurrency Jobs on Twitter. You'll be able to find it there. But you can even join like Discord channels of early stage projects, add some value in your spare time, and they'll end up hiring you if you're good enough as a full-time contributor, which I think is really amazing as well. So yeah, we've come a long way to go, but I think we're at the point now where Ethereum is no longer, will it work? Is it going to change the world? Is DeFi going to be a thing? To, we know it's going to be a thing. Let's keep building it, right? Let's make it happen faster, right? Let's not sit on our hands and wait for someone else to build it. Let's do it ourselves. So, end rant there, I guess, on that topic. But yeah, I just think it's always good to put some context around these things. All right, so I put a tweet out just a few hours ago because Uniswap is now doing more fees than Bitcoin again. So this site, cryptofees.info, is where you can see the fees generated by Ethereum, Bitcoin, and various different protocols. So you can see here that, Ethereum alone is doing, $8.8 million of fees, gas fees per day right now. Actually, over the last 7 days, the average has been almost $10 million per day. Uniswap is doing $2.3 million a day of fees, and that's not gas fees, that's protocol fees. So Uniswap takes 0.3% on every trade and pays that to liquidity providers. So that's $2.3 million is coming from the total trading volume of the day, which is 0.3% of that trading volume. Then you have Bitcoin, which is doing an average of $3 million of fees over the last 7 days. But over the last day, it only did almost 2 million. So Uniswap did more. Then SushiSwap, we're doing 1 million synthetics, and then there's a bunch more. On the website, you can scroll down, and there's even more than that. But basically, yeah, I guess the top 4 or 5 here is what counts really. But it's just insane. And I don't think it's a one-to-one comparison, of course. Like, Uniswap is a very different product to what Bitcoin offers, right? Uniswap offers a way to trade thousands of different tokens, and it takes a flat 0.3% fee. That fee isn't variable. It doesn't. But the thing is, what is variable is the amount of fees generated, right? The more demand to use Uniswap, the more trades going on, the more volume passing through, the more the fees are going to be. Whereas with Bitcoin and Ethereum, the networks themselves, the value transfer doesn't matter, right? If you were to do a $1 million trade on Uniswap, 0.3% of $1 million for a fee is more than 0.3% of $100,000, for example. Whereas with Ethereum and Bitcoin, it costs the same amount of money to move $1 million of ETH as it does to move $10 of ETH, right? And with Ethereum, it's dependent on the gas fees at the time. With Bitcoin, it's dependent on the network fees, but which is also dependent on demand. So it's still demand. So I still think it's relevant to show that Uniswap has more demand than Bitcoin in some roundabout way, but it's an apples to oranges kind of comparison here. But I still think it's funny. Obviously the metric that matters more is the one where Ethereum is leading over Bitcoin, and it kind of like has cemented its position over it at this point. And it's not just leading; it is absolutely obliterating Bitcoin right now. It's over 4 times the fees paid. So, and I know, I've spoken about this a lot on the Refuel, and people obviously, whenever I post this, I always get replies saying, why are we celebrating high fees and all this stuff, and I'm not gonna argue that again. It's just, it's missing the forest for the trees as well. Like, how can it be a bad thing that people are willing to pay these high fees to use these networks, right? We have layer 2 scaling coming as well. I've spoken about all of this so many times. I'm not going to rehash it here. But it always kind of like just irks me a little bit. It's like, guys, just like, dig a little deeper. Stop looking at surface level stuff. Dig a little deeper and you'll get what it all means. So yeah, I thought that was quite funny there. So some updates for Rarible this week. So they have a featured section now. You can link your Twitter account to earn trust from buyers, which I guess is like an anti-Sybil kind of resistant mechanism there. They've got a refreshed leaderboard. They've got dark theme enhancements and general UX improvements. So Rarible is, I love Rarible. It's a really great NFT marketplace. You can go and visit their site. I'll link it in the YouTube description if you haven't yet. But I really love the way they've done kind of the UX. There's obviously a bunch of other crypto marketplaces, NFT marketplaces like OpenSea, nifty gateways. There's actually a bunch of them now, like Super Rare. Some of them are targeting niches, like Super Rare does art, whereas Rarible is like a generalized platform. But yeah, great to see them keep shipping features here. If you want to go check it out, it'll be in the YouTube description. So there was a thread here put out from not Alpha Finance themselves, but from the integration lead at Band Protocol, wETH. I think that's how you say his name here. So this is a thread about Alpha Homora V2, which is one of Alpha Finance's new products coming out, and kind of like how it works and everything like that. You can read the thread in the YouTube description. I won't read it out here, but basically this V2 launch is quite big. It comes with a bunch of different features. The features are listed here. It comes with the Homora Bank, Spell, Caster, Safebox, Wrapper, and Oracle. The bank basically allows the storage, the Homora Bank is a smart contract that stores all of the protocol's positions, as well as the collateral token in the form of wrapped LP tokens. It is also the contract that the protocol users interact with. So, I mean, it's basically like a vault sort of thing. I mean, this is technical stuff here, but I think it's important because they're major improvements to the protocol. Spells contracts that defines how to interact with various liquidity pools on the protocol. Then you have a bunch of other things here. As I said, I'm not gonna read it all out, but I think he says here the juicy bits are the safe box, which is basically users can choose to lend their assets for others to borrow, but instead of the lending borrowing happening directly on the protocol, it is done through Cream and the Safebox contract. So that's pretty cool there. It's a bit innovative there. But yeah, I won't go through all of this. You can read it in the YouTube description because I don't want to read it out to you. But for those of you who haven't been following the Alpha Finance, the project, I suggest going and checking them out. They're offering some really great products with more coming. They were the first ones to do leveraged yield farming, which I thought was really, really great. They have, lending and borrowing going on as well. They have a new AMM coming soon. They have a perpetual protocol coming, I think, as well. So they're building a lot of different things, and it seems to have flown under the radar for a little while. And full disclosure here, I own Alpha tokens, but that's because I'm bullish on the project. I think it's really, really a really great project. They managed to grow, I think, the number 11 on DeFi Pulse in a very short period of time. I don't want to shill you too much on it. I just think that I love highlighting projects that I don't think are getting enough attention. Over the last few days, it seems to have been getting a lot of attention because the price went up of the Alpha tokens. But the project itself is really great. And, I suggest you go check it out if you haven't already and use the products too. If you're into yield farming, maybe you want to do leveraged yield farming. There's also a product where you can put your ETH in and earn interest on that ETH. And the interest isn't negligible. It's upwards of like 10% at times on your ETH, right? Paid in ETH, not on like a stable coin or whatever. So yeah, definitely go check those out. But I won't show you too much here because obviously I hold Alpha tokens here, so I don't want to be shilling you on it too much. So another thing that kind of happened over the weekend was a lot of people were talking about CryptoPunks. Now, I wrote about this in the Daily Gwei newsletter, so you can go check that out if you want a little bit more details here. But basically, the TLDR on CryptoPunks is that they are the original NFTs on Ethereum. They were created in 2017 by a company called Lava Labs, and they basically were going for nothing back in 2017. You could basically buy them for pennies on the dollar. And there's only a limited amount of them. There's 10,000 of them, and each of them have different traits. So you can see here that this one has an alien trait and has like a purple cap on. Now there's only 9 alien CryptoPunks out of 10,000. So because of that, or at least that's one of the reasons, it's very scarce. And someone paid $761,000 for this particular CryptoPunk. Yes, that's right, $761,000. Now, it's not just someone, it's a DAO called Flamingo DAO, which seems to be like a collective that collects NFTs and like different things like that, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, and this isn't the only one that has been sold for this amount, and they've actually been going up in price. If I go to the Lava Labs website here, you can see kind of a transaction history, how it's sold over time. So over the past few days, there were a bunch of bids coming in, and then it finally sold for $761,000. And then you can see here, back in 2017, it originally sold for I guess, oh no, it was originally claimed. So I think you could claim it for free at the time. And then, there were bids coming in, and eventually sold for $2,000. So if you were the person that had bought it for $2,000 back in July 6th, 2017, and sold it for $761,000 today, I don't know if it's the same person, but if you had done that, it's a quite a good gain in 3 years, right? Or 3.5 years or whatever it is there. So yeah. But the main thing I wanted to talk about here was that I saw a lot of people getting confused as to why some would spend so much money on, what they consider to be like a pixelated image where you can just, right click, save image as, and Bob's your uncle. I explain in the Daily Gwei newsletter in today's edition, I go into more detail about why I don't think this is the right approach to this sort of stuff. And a few of the reasons include the fact that, one, I just talked about how it's scarce, right? How there's only 9 alien punks, and out of 10,000, and there's never going to be any more. Buying the actual CryptoPunk on chain gives you cryptographic proof that you own that thing on Ethereum. The only way for it to be altered is if someone took over the entire Ethereum network. And if that was to happen, I don't think anyone would be talking about CryptoPunks. We'd have bigger problems at that point. So there's that, right? It's owning a piece of like NFT culture. It was the first NFT, right? It's nostalgia. Maybe, you saw this back in the day and now you're a whale because you made some really great crypto investments and you're like, wow, I really want this. And you buy it, right? Maybe this person bought it, or this DAO bought it because they thought that they can flip it later for more, right? There's a bunch of different things and reasons as to why people buy these things. Some people say it's wash trading. This particular instance wasn't because this DAO bought it, but I think there is some wash trading going on where people buy and sell to themselves and make it look like these CryptoPunks are worth more than what they are. And not just CryptoPunks, like any NFTs on chain, because it's very easy to do that. But that happens in the real world as well, like in the art scene too, and it hasn't stopped people from collecting. There are legit collectors out there. I'm a big collector, and you can see all around me all the things that I collect. I've been a huge collector for a long time. One of the things I collected a lot of actually was Pokemon trading cards. I collected them up until maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I was a pretty avid collector, and for various reasons. A lot of it was nostalgia. I liked the art on them. I really liked collecting them. And I guess like one thing was that I just like collecting in general. I like completing like a collection or having something unique and that's worth something. And I haven't ever sold really any of my cards. Like I've sold a few of them, but none of the really ultra rare ones or anything like that because I don't really kind of care to. But I like owning them, and I have like it's weird to say, but I have like an emotional attachment to them, like nostalgic sort of thing. And I think that's what people have with digital collectibles as well. Just because it's digital doesn't mean that it's any less kind of, collectible than a physical item, because we can have digital scarcity thanks to blockchains. BTC having 21 million, only 21 million Bitcoin, are able to exist is because of that digital scarcity enabled by blockchains, right? ETH has its own digital scarcity, even though it doesn't have a cap. Like we know how much ETH is in circulation at all times. We know where it is. We know what it's doing. With EIP 1559, we'll be burning, some ETH. So there's that aspect to it as well, the scarcity aspect, which plays a big part in it. But yeah, you can go read the newsletter for a bit more context here, but I thought that was just interesting seeing all the conversations over the weekend, people not getting NFTs. And, fair enough, if you're not a collector, if you're not someone who's ever collected anything, you're not going to get it in general. But think about this, and I wrote this in the newsletter actually, and I thought it was a pretty funny example. A year ago, I could have only sold ETH for $150, right? One ETH was like $150 a year ago or something like that. Today, I can sell it for $1,400 or over $1,400. Right? There's a time value of things as well. Like, why can I sell it for $1,400 today, but a year ago I would only get $140 for it, right? Same with these CryptoPunks. It's not a one-to-one comparison. It's not apples to apples, but there is a time value aspect here as well. And a lot of things are actually valued on their age, right? Vintage things normally go for a lot. As I was talking about before, the Pokemon trading cards, the older ones from the original generations are actually worth much, much more than even the ones from just a few generations later. And that's based on, nostalgia, the age, and nostalgia is a function of time, right? You can't be nostalgic about something that you only experienced yesterday. It has to be, a certain period of time before you can get nostalgic about something. So there's that aspect to it. There's the scarcity aspect, because those first cards that were out, because they weren't worth much at the time, people just discarded them, right? They lost them, they didn't care about them. And it's the same thing happened with CryptoPunks, actually. A lot of people gave them up for cheap because at the time they weren't worth much. Same with ETH. At the time, it wasn't worth much. It was only worth $140 per ETH. Now it's worth $1,400, right? People were giving it up because they're like, oh well, you know, it's only this much, whatever, right? Not apples to apples again, right? I'm not trying to say it is, but there is a time function there. And especially with collectibles, their nostalgia plays a huge part for sure. So I think there's a bit of all that going into this stuff here, but I'll digress for now. I think that I think I've kind of explained my point there, and it doesn't just apply to CryptoPunks. I think it applies to kind of all collectibles as well. So Prysmatic Labs put out their 2021 update over the weekend here. You can go read it in the YouTube description. I thought it was really cool to see kind of like their summary of 2020 and then their 2021 roadmap to see what's in the pipeline from them. For those who don't know, Prysmatic Labs is building an ETH2 client. They currently are building the leading ETH2 client called Prism. Amazing team doing amazing work. I suggest you go read this. I won't go through it now because I'm running over time and I want to get through the rest of the stuff I want to talk about here. So Hayden Adams put out a really interesting tweet about Uniswap protocol, saying that every 12 minutes a new pair is deployed to Uniswap. A new trading pair is deployed to Uniswap, which equals 115 new trading pairs per day for the last 249 days. That's insane, right? This is the power of permissionless finance. This is just people from all over the world, no matter where they are, in whatever country they're in, you know, even from their smartphones, from whatever device they have, you know, adding liquidity or creating pairs for new kind of assets, right? All these new types of assets on Uniswap. So I thought that was really cool. And you can see the growth here. It's just been insane. I mean, DeFi to me started in the end of 2017, but it didn't start as in like cross that kind of like the chasm from the really, you know, early adopters and believers to the general audience until like June, July 2020. And that shows in every single chart, every single growth chart. That's when it went from a toy to something more serious. And you can see this here as well. So I thought that was really, really cool. So Tim Beiko posted this really cool calculator. It's like a spreadsheet that basically allows you to see the impact of EIP 1559 on miners and the money that they're going to be making. If I'm reading this right, the maximum decrease I think here is 25% in miner revenue from fees. Now that's the maximum, and this was based on this the 17th of September 2020 fees. So and this basically shows, you know, if EIP 1559 winning today, how much less money, or how like, you know, how much less money, I guess you could say, would miners be making from fees. And this kind of says it here, because obviously miners have been kind of speaking up lately about 1559, and I mean, I've spoken about this before, but this is a pay cut for them no matter which way you cut it, but it's not a massive pay cut. It's not like they're losing 100% of the fee revenue. They're only losing the base fee. That's the fee that gets burned. And then anything over the base fee is called the tip. And the tip is paid to miners still. And the majority of the fees are actually going to be in the tip, which is going to be paid to miners. So this was put out there to show them that, you know, your impact isn't going to be that great on the rewards you're making. And you're already making a killing anyway. I went through this last week. I won't rehash it now, but I think this is a really great spreadsheet. I'll link it in the YouTube description for you to check out. All right, last up here was a teaser from one of the Yearn core devs here. So he basically said, remember when the Yearn wETH Vault, Y Vault ate like 1% of all ETH? I do too. Quiet emoji, like shh emoji. He's obviously teasing that another, he or she, I don't actually know, but you know, they're obviously teasing that another ETH Y Vault is coming. I haven't seen it yet. This was posted a couple of days ago. Maybe it's coming like very soon. But if for those of you who don't remember, this vault did actually eat up like a ton of ETH because it allowed you to get like 80 or 90% yield on your ETH. Because what it did, it would put your ETH in MakerDAO, draw DAI against it, use that DAI on Curve Finance to harvest CRV token rewards, and then kind of sell that. And then you'd be able to kind of like generate the yield from that. So that was very popular at the time. Actually, one of the most popular things at the time. So if they're releasing another one of it, I'm curious to see how much growth it has. Because, as I said, there's not... I mean, I mentioned before how Alpha Finance offers an ETH yield product as well, but it doesn't offer 90% on your ETH. It's like most of the time it's 10%. Depends on the utilization rate, but I don't know if they're going to be able to offer kind of 90% now, because the kind of DeFi mania, even though it feels like it's here, it's not like what it was in DeFi summer. And on top of that, I think they're probably going to be more conservative this time. The original vault was pretty aggressive. It only maintained like, I think, a 200% collateralization ratio when the minimum is 150%. So people were pretty worried about that. So we'll have to see what happens. But anyway, I digress for now. I've gone over time here on today's refuel. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed today's one. Keep enjoying the I guess, like the price rise. Hopefully we see some more action there. And as I described at the start of the video, it's not the profits that count really at the end of the day. And that's not the main reason. Like, we should all be excited about this. I think the main reason is that the ecosystem now has so much life being, kind of put into it, so much capital going around, so much things can get funded, so many teams getting funded, so much stuff getting built. That's the most exciting aspect to all of this. So I hope you're as excited as I am. But for now, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Give that video a thumbs up, subscribe to the Daily Gwei newsletter, join the Discord, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.